A frequency beyond space and time.
Unspeakable knowledge. It is Mad Tower Radio.
Welcome to Mad Tower Radio, broadcasting to you live from... My name is Daniel, I'm joined by my co-host Christian, and today we're breaking boundaries on cryptids and conspiracies for you. How's it going today, Christian?
It's going fantastic. You've been leaving me breadcrumbs all week as to what you have in store today, and I'm pretty excited.
I am, but I think we're going to save mine for second. If you want to go ahead and go first on your cryptid this week.
Absolutely. No, I wouldn't have it any other way. So, it was my goal at the onset of this sort of journey to be digging new things up, finding these stories that I'd never heard before, and a part of that was going to places that I hadn't really thought of, when trying to find these cryptids or these creatures. You're like, Bigfoot in the Pacific Northwest, or these sort of stereotypical locations.
Right.
I think it's been a sort of triumph of all of the terrifying and wacky places that we've been able to find some of these creatures. But this one, I think, is gonna take the cake for the most part. I'm pretty excited.
Oh, yeah? You think this is the wildest one you've found yet?
Insane. It's less of a creature, but you're going to find out. I'll take you on this journey. But it starts in Bolivia.
Bolivia.
It's an isolated incident. It's a sort of one-time interaction with the Potosi Sheepslayer.
The fucking what?
Now, what comes to your mind when you hear the Potosi Sheepslayer?
It kind of reminds me of, like, the Chupacabra, how its, like, reputation is, like, a goat killer or a cattle killer or something.
Yeah, something that's hunting these herding creatures. It's got that, like, Latin America vibe to it. Okay, I get you.
Yeah, like it's pretty much just it's a cattle killer.
Yeah, well, here on our debut in South America, we are going to talk about this sort of... It almost seems like an invasion that happened to this poor little village in Bolivia.
Like an alien invasion or some kind of invasive species of sheep-killing cryptid?
And it's gonna be hard to explain. It's
okay.
A sentient entity. But let's take it from the top. So 1967 is when this encounter happens. I was inspired by your take on the ghouls in the last episode and your use of first-hand experiences and takes. So I decided to frame this one from an interview conducted in 2001. And there's this Latin UFO investigator and author by the name of J.J. Benitez.
Okay.
And he goes and talks to the family that encountered this creature 34 years after the event. And it's... So just to give you the sort of broad strokes, it is a wonderful day in the southwestern portion of Bolivia. This is a sheep herding family. This woman has her child sort of on one of those like hammocks that like sling around your shoulder.
Okay.
And she's walking around herding the sheep and llamas in the hills, and when she takes the llamas out to graze that day, she comes back and finds all 64 of her sheep without blood and their organs and their eyes picked out.
Like these sheeps are just hollow?
They were like extracted.
In the middle of the day.
Middle of the day. They use this amazing word. Let me see if I can find it. Exsanguinated.
Exsanguinated.
Removed of blood.
What the fuck?
Now, we're gonna take it from the beginning, but she ends up fighting these creatures. So you're gonna enjoy this journey.
Okay. She
engages in hand-to-hand combat with this beast. So I'm going to start it off with the beginning of the story, and most of these are quotes from her. So She says, "That day I was alone. It was around 4 p.m. I went to look for the llamas and their young, and they had gone astray. Then I gathered the sheep and the lambs in one place and went searching for the rest of the animals."
Okay.
She then describes returning back to her pen. She has this stone corral that she keeps the sheep in. And when she sees it, it's covered in this web-like mesh, sort of surrounding it like a cocoon.
Oh, no.
And her first thought is to go in there, see what's going on with her sheep. She wants, in defiance of all sort of, I guess, stereotypical common sense in these types of situations, she goes right on in. And
yeah, no, that's like a horrendous sight. It's just come back to your sheep pen and just see like a funnel web spider, a giant one no less, is just taking up residence.
A massive sort of cocoon. She describes a childlike creature eviscerating 63 of her sheep, and she has the last sheep between its legs with this long tubular device with a razor-sharp hook at the end, ostensibly what picked and peeled and extracted all of its blood and organs, and a open sort of bag that was putting all of the entrails into.
What the fuck?
Yeah, it's like full on like harvesting these creatures. So
the thing in the cocoon is?
Yeah, it had like surrounded the pen and then went on inside and did its business.
So is that like, is it using it as like a tool, or is this thing like an appendage?
It's a tool.
Oh, what the hell?
So she says, quote, when she walks in, "There was a small man inside the corral. He was like a child on his knees and with a sheep between his legs. The pen was covered with something like a net. I panicked. The individual had killed all of these animals. It had strange clothing, like a diver. One full piece from the neck to the feet. Its boots were brown. He had very white skin with blonde hair, blue eyes, and a red and abundant mustache."
What the fuck?
It's this small, mustachioed, sort of space alien dude, is how she describes him.
That's so weird.
It's this, like, Marvin the Martian-ass guy coming down to pluck her sheep. And
that's so strange.
This is 1967.
Mm-hmm.
So, all abound if you want to mix in any of the, like, fled Argentina Nazi things. Just bring them on into this story.
Yeah, I guess. But, I mean, I don't know why the Nazis would have to literally, what was the word? Exsanguinate a fucking sheep.
Yeah, why do they need all this blood? I don't know what the sort of Aryan, mustachioed alien man wants with these guts. But this is only the beginning. This woman, her name is, oh gosh, I had it written down. Valentina Flores is without fear. She is a hero. She describes next in her story, she begins throwing rocks and swearing at this creature to try and save the last sheep and to get it the hell out of its sheep farm.
What? So she's just whipping rocks at the dude?
She starts swearing and whipping rocks at it.
Oh my
She's
god.
not to be trifled with.
So she said childlike, right?
At least proportion-wise. Like, it looked small.
Like he's just short?
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
Why did you... Did you have some kind of... epiphany?
No. I wanted to ask earlier, but I didn't want to interject.
Oh, it's all good.
Because you were on a roll, but, like, I just wanted to make sure if, like, it just looked small or if this thing looked like a child. But, I mean, he's rocking a mustache, so I don't think it was a child.
She uses the phrases of childlike to talk about its sort of silhouette, its sort of body shape.
Okay.
But after she attacks it, after she throws rocks at it, she describes it running towards this box inside the pen and pulling this crank, so all of the wire meshing and the sort of cage retracts into the box.
What the hell?
Like it takes away its cage because he's discovered he's being attacked, and she describes a second one also in the corral with her that she hadn't noticed, and it just runs away once the cage goes away. It like uses its jetpack to fly into the sky.
A fucking jetpack?
Oh, also they have jetpacks, yeah. Like full-on space dudes.
What the fuck?
It just gets so much worse and worse. She says, quote, "He spoke to me, but I did not understand it. It was not Spanish. He was as upset as I was. Oh my God, my animals. He had killed them one by one. I became crazy. I hit him with all my strength. I hit him in the face, and he started to bleed. The guy was still screaming, but I did not understand it."
Oh my God.
She attacks this poor little Sheepslayer beast.
She just starts fucking wailing on him.
Yeah, she has this cudgel, she describes. This sort of like beating stick she keeps on her.
Yeah.
In case aliens come by.
Like you do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, mind you, the baby's still like slung across her shoulder on like a bandolier.
Wow.
Now this is my favorite part. She talks about the Sheepslayer going to defend itself with that cylindrical hook with the surgical implement on the end that it used to gut the sheep. She says that he would throw it, and it had a chain on the end of the tube, so he could like Kratos it. He could throw it, and then it would pull back, and he would throw it back and forth. It's insane.
What the fuck? So he's just whipping around his little hook sucker thing on a chain as well?
Yeah, he has it on the end of a chain attached to his suit, and he's using it to like whip it around like a flail or like some kind of murder weapon.
And I'm gonna go ahead and guess that Miss Flores still didn't give no fucks and was just like, I'm gonna whoop that ass with my little beating stick.
She describes she took a couple cuts, and the initial sort of throw would have gutted her, she thinks, but it hit the wrapping, the really tight works that kept the sling on her shoulder.
Huh.
So she takes that first hit. She's engaging in full-on CQC with this beast. And
that is absolute insanity.
Eventually hits it hard enough that it starts bleeding. Like she cracks its arm, she believes, like it falls lifeless. The arm does, and then it runs away. It flies off thinking it doesn't want any more of this woman. Like Valentina Flores completely halts the invasion in this one fight.
Holy shit.
It eventually flees. It runs off with its friend to, I guess, find some other sheep pen to accost.
So This is just a lot to digest.
What are your thoughts? How are you feeling right now?
I think the strangest part to me so far is that, like, well, it's all strange. My expectations were completely subverted. Like I said, I was expecting, like, a Chupacabra-esque hell beast or something like that, you know? And, no, it's little Aryan aliens with jetpacks and shit.
Yeah, they just need sheep parts. She calls the Bolivian authorities. The army eventually comes in. They say that all the sheep were missing multiple internal organs. Their eyes were gone, their ears were gone, their mouth and their belly fat, and all of their blood.
Jesus.
And after this event, a ton of other ranchers in the area are reporting to the Bolivian government. They're saying, yeah, these strange things are happening to us too. Our sheep are also being attacked. We're seeing like strange little creatures leap out of our sheep pens and leave behind these corpsed animals. Like, it's a full-on sort of like epidemic of this event.
Damn. That's fucking wild.
No. They left out the wildest portion of this story for you.
Why'd you... Oh, please, and fill me in.
Because it just sort of... I sometimes question the maybe mindset of this fine lady, the maybe authenticity of her story. Not to say she's lying,
right.
But if I'm very proud of her for her bravery and her hand-to-hand fighting skills against these aliens. But she says 2 days before this event, she's just walking around her home, and she gets splashed, completely like covered in sheep's blood from something. Threw a bucket of sheep's blood or something all over her.
So she's just walking down the street and she got fucking carried?
Yes. And she thinks it may be some kind of like targeting, some kind of you're next, like the Sheepslayers have chosen you type thing.
That is strange.
This is all, like I said, 34 years later, but JJ describes her as still being very alive with this story. She seems emotionally affected by these events.
Yeah. You can tell when you're sitting down with someone if they're just fucking giving you the runaround, or if like they're like, you know, they're telling you a true ass story, you know?
Yeah, he very much is on her side for some of these, for this story, for its authenticity. But some of these details are just real out there.
I don't like the sheep blood targeting. That's weird.
That one's what really sort of changed it for me. So it made it a little more sinister in a way.
Yeah, true. But at the same time, these dudes just jetpack away.
They just buzzed on off after they found out she wouldn't take any of their business.
That's so wild.
And there hasn't been that much sort of reappearance of the things. They haven't come back lately. It was just some crazy happenstance in 1967, but it's wild.
So there haven't really been any reports or encounters of these things since then?
Not particularly, no.
That's so weird.
It becomes sort of this local legend. She, in the interview, says how surprised she is that people would actually come to her village to talk to her about it. She doesn't know how anybody would have ever heard of it.
Right. So I don't know if you think like this, but like, just for some reason in my head, when I look at a map and I see South America, just the continent itself just looks so much more isolated from the world than any other one.
Like how it's sort of tucked in the corner type, like way. That makes sense.
Yeah, I feel like there's just so much fucking like mystery left in the South Americas, you know.
Oh, for sure. It's massive, just sort of, whether it be the mountains in the Andes or the rainforest, it's a lot of sort of isolated locations.
Yeah, and if these things were aliens, maybe these extraterrestrials see it and they think the same thing, and they're like, all right, well, we'll go fuck around over there. It doesn't look like much is going on there.
Maybe they were waiting for, like, okay, dudes, Panama Canal's up. Nobody's going around South America anymore. It's like prime alien zone.
Yeah, they're like, hey, they just built a canal so they never have to go to this place again, guys. Let's go check it out.
It's free. Let's all go for it. There's an awesome, like, artist's rendition of these creatures. I'm going to send you an image right now.
Oh, let's see it. Let's see it.
Dope.
Pulling it up right now.
And it's...
Oh, that looks fucking awesome.
It's cool, like, little alien space dudes. And I sent you one of him whipping his noodle at her.
Yeah. That's wild. Huh.
And then here's the last one for you.
Did she say that they have helmets?
Yeah, she describes it as this sort of foggy. It's kind of hard to make out details, but she could see through it some the mustache and the face type look.
They're like some kind of futuristic spacemen. That's really fucking sick, actually.
Yeah, tiny little dudes.
Like, I love that artist rendition of it.
It was this art that drew me to it. I mean, that in its freaking radical name, but like...
Yeah. It's got that, like, that Cold War space era aesthetic to it.
The awesome, like, retrofuturism look.
Which, do you know when this was drawn, by chance?
I don't have a date for the art, so to say.
Because it looks like a fucking comic book, you know?
Yeah.
No, that's crazy. And I mean, I don't know. This part I might be sounding like I'm talking out of my ass, but like, America is really the only, like, place that I can, like, when I hear about someone doing some kind of publicity stunt, I instantly think of America.
Okay.
Right? So, like, if this lady 23 years later is like, I can't believe that people are coming to my village to learn about this, like, what? Like, if not for publicity, then why just make up this thing?
Yeah, like a
you know
genuineness to it. Like, what did you have to gain?
Yeah.
No, there is a little bit to gain from it. I'm going to send you the fucking sickest t-shirt of all time of the Potosi Sheepslayer.
Oh, it's loading. I'm very excited to see this.
It defies belief. I'm going to find a link and encourage everyone on God's earth to get this t-shirt.
Oh, I would love to see it. Any second.
I'll also attach the shopping link to it.
Yeah. That's a fucking rad shirt.
It's like a hell Teletubby with this, like, scorpion hook thing on him.
I want more cryptid merchandise.
Absolutely.
I want more. Because that looks fucking awesome.
But it's really this one wacky summer. It was an isolated incident. That's the Sheepslayer for you. You got any closing thoughts for it?
Well, I'd really like to know what you think. Like, do you think it's bullshit, or do you think this, like, there's really jetpacking Aryans out there with fucking hook hook blade chains.
I have this like personal affinity for this sort of like it's got this like Isaac Asimov feel to it, this sort of like extraterrestrial civilization that we don't totally understand. They're kind of just doing their own thing, and we could kind of maybe aren't too different from them. Like we could maybe coexist with something that just wants a couple sheep gusts every now and then.
Yeah. No, that's... Yeah, I feel that.
But it's hard to think. I mean, JJ also frames it in this sort of, this is a far off rural sort of sheep herding pastoral village. Like the detail that she goes into, the like trouble describing some of the technology, I think really helps add to the story.
Yeah.
Like she doesn't know what this is. She thinks it's like an antenna or like a satellite or something.
Right.
And it's that sort of misinterpreting something that you saw that really makes me believe something happened. I don't know if like what does some shit kid have to gain from dressing up like a spaceman and haunting people?
And jetpacking away.
Well, yeah, maybe that part's a little whack, but also the threat of death from this lady who's going to club you for attacking her livelihood.
I think that's my favorite part, is that Miss Flores here she's like, alright, I'm gonna whoop that ass.
Bodies this alien dude, but she loses her entire livestock. Like, she loses her livelihood, and she has to move to another city after this event.
Yeah, I mean, I would start whooping that ass too, I guess. I never thought about it like that. She just lost her entire livelihood.
Like, her whole... I mean, she had the llamas, but the sheep, I guess, was keeping her afloat somehow. But, yeah, she moved to the city. And all in all, seems like a rad person. Like,
yeah.
Imagine you just sitting with your grandma one day on having, like, Sunday tea, and she's like, yeah, I fought an alien.
She's like, yeah, I whooped that alien ass. Yeah, I mean, that does make for a pretty fucking awesome grandma, I would say.
She's like,
I'm really thinking about getting this shirt.
No, honestly, like, we need to leave it in the description because it's amazing.
Yeah, we definitely will. Because that's fucking great.
And to me, this is the exact reason that the show was made, to just put cute little spotlights on these crazy things that people might not have really gotten into.
Cryptids you may have never heard of.
Who now have a line of t-shirts.
But as for conspiracies, let's bring it around.
Yeah.
Because I got something good for you today. Have you ever heard of the simulation theory, Christian?
I'm an avid fan of The Matrix.
Simulation theory proposes that our world and everything you know is being simulated. Now, this theory is nothing new at all. It dates all the way back to Plato's cave. A group of people who live chained to a wall in a cave. The people watch the shadows on the wall by objects that move in front of a flame. And this is the only life they know. The shadows are the prisoner's only reality. René Descartes, famous philosopher and scientist, had a writing about an evil demon of utmost power and cunning that has used all his power to deceive me, and the demon seeks to portray a completely false illusion of the outside world. Now, Christian, if you take the blue pill, the story ends, you wake up in your bed, and you believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, well, we stay doing the podcast, and I show you how deep simulation theory goes.
Oh, man. Is the world still on lockdown in the Blue Pearl world?
Say again?
Is the world still on quarantine in Blue Pill world?
Yeah.
Fuck it then. I'll take the red one. Let's go.
Okay, so, well, what do you already know about simulation theory other than the Matrix?
You sort of pulled most of the like classical examples. I really do like Plato's cave story. It's this to me. It seems like a matter of perception. Like, how do you trust your own senses or the things that you believe to be real? Is that sort of how this theory gets hinged on?
Kinda. I mean, I did look into a little bit of philosophy while I was researching this. I brought up Rene Descartes, who we're not done talking about him. But a lot of it leans towards the technology side.
Okay, because it seems a lot like that Zhuangzi. I'm definitely going to say his name wrong. The Chinese philosopher about like the butterfly dream.
I've not heard of that.
He has this dream that he is a butterfly, and he talks about how like it's a happy dream, it feels so real, and he enjoys living in that dream, and it affects him so much that he wakes up and he's like, how do I know if this isn't the dream and I'm actually a butterfly? Because they both felt equally real to me, and I felt all of these emotions and this stimulus inside the dream, and he just sort of creates this existential nightmare for himself where he doesn't know if what he's feeling is real or not. He doesn't know where the dream is.
No, for sure. Well, let me get into the proposed theories about simulation. So the first thing you're going to come across is from Nick Bostrom. He's a I don't remember where he's from, but Northern Europe. He's a philosopher, and he proposes that we, this one's crazy. He proposes that we are a simulation, not just living in one. So it's called like the ancestral simulation theory. And it's like our world as we know, it's a simulated existence made by futuristic humans with like massive amounts of computing power. And the reason that they're doing this simulation is to just study how their ancestors lived.
Oh, like an experiment, like a thought, like archaeology type thing?
Yeah, maybe history.
Okay.
They're just like trying to study their ancestors,
That's sick.
So yeah, and I mean, if that's the case, then we might not even be able to break out of the simulation. We might just be hyper advanced, like highly advanced coding NPC humans built solely for the simulation.
Like to feed into it? Like, is it like the whole of humanity is inside of it, or is it like you're watching it, like other people are watching no named creations inside of this world?
They're watching.
Okay.
Like they're playing, like they're literally playing like The Sims.
Okay.
You know?
Oh no.
Which is weird. Because that could have a lot of meanings, you know, like what are they trying to simulate? Like, are they trying to simulate society? That could be why things have gotten so fucking crazy as of late. They could be simulating like they could be studying the life of like one or like a handful of people, you know?
Yeah, if you have the ability and power to do all this, how are we going to understand like the frame of what they need?
Right. And I mean, if this is the case, well, I think I've won an award for the least interesting video game character of all time.
Does this guy that you've studied offer any proof? Does he talk about like glitches in the Matrix type things, like cues to the simulation, or no?
We'll get into that later. I have a whole bunch of stuff written down on what could be considered evidence.
Awesome.
So next, Elon Musk, who He could just be the architect of the simulation.
Is he?
But moving on. Forget everything about ancestor simulation. Like, that's just this one guy's theory. Elon Musk said the odds that we're not simulated are 1 in billions. Right?
The odds that we are not?
Yeah. He definitely thinks that we're either already in the simulation or we're going to be building the simulation very soon.
That's kind of a fear that I have, that we're going to lose sort of the line between real and fabricated within my lifetime.
Oh yeah, for sure. He now his thing is coming strictly from like a technological standpoint. Like, he's like, where's the quote? He said 40 years ago we had Pong, 2 rectangles and a dot. That is what games were. Now, 40 years later, we have photorealistic 3D simulations with millions of people playing simultaneously, and it's getting better every year. And soon we'll have virtual reality and augmented reality. If you assume any rate of improvement at all, the games will become indistinguishable from reality.
Oh man, Elon watched like Sword Art Online, and he's busting it wide open.
Yeah, right. But, I mean, what do you think? I mean, the rapid expansion of technology is hard to deny. We are advancing technologically very fast.
Technology is advancing too fast for society to keep up. Like, culture is not keeping pace with, like, the new power that an individual person can have. But by any means.
I feel that.
Technology, influence, like, range of voice and ideas can spread so fast now that we're still living in like 1970. Yeah.
Like, it's the age of information, and people are still like, oh, the newspaper, that's the information.
Okay, I love the newspaper though. On the train to work every day. Damn, I miss that.
But I do believe that we will be able to perfectly simulate things in the near future.
So, in order to build a simulation on our terms, does that mean simulated neurological inputs? Like, I feel pressure, I feel heat and pain and weight? Or is that just all like headset visual stimuli?
So that actually brings me to the next theory called computationalism, right? And it argues that cognitive function is a form of computational power, and that if we could harness and understand it fully, we'd be able to create perfect simulations that could not be distinguished from reality.
Is that to say you find out how our brains process?
2 words. Flesh computer.
I love that. I
is pretty much like
adore that.
What that's getting at. You know?
I mean,
and that one's crazy, because if that's the case, then it only further adds to Nick Bostrom's theory that we're not even real people, you know? We're the simulation, and we're just being let loose so they can simulate society or whatever.
Yeah, to run these computations. Okay. I'm into that.
Mm-hmm. It's pretty crazy.
I've always been a long time proponent of plug me into that computer, dude. Like, zap my brain into the net. I'm ready.
You're hopping on the technology train?
Absolutely, I am.
You're ready to go to cyber hell?
All we are little lightning blasts inside of like a gelatin squid being piloted by a bone mech. Like, we're all the lightning bolts in your head. So if that's all I need, like, plug me in.
Yeah?
That's life right there.
Fair enough. So you want to like exist minimally?
Yeah.
Like, just put all of humanity onto like
not
hard
Not
drives.
everybody has to. It's a choice. Like, I'm not going to say everyone's got to get into Skynet with me, but I'll go. I'll do it. I'll run the test dummy boy who gets plugged in first.
Okay, I can see that. I can see the appeal in that.
Are you against plugging your soul into the internet?
No. So I had a Fitbit a couple of years ago. And I remember looking at the Fitbit and being like, man, just plant this shit into my wrist.
Oh no, that's
You
step
know?
one.
Yeah, so I mean, I got some ready for the transhumanist revolution. Like, fuck it. I want to slap on new arms, new eyes, live in altered carbon hellscape.
Well, if you allow, like, internet access, like an open sourced Wi-Fi signal to your skull, who's to say some dweeb or some malicious group is not gonna, like, beam thoughts, advertisements, like Pepsi commercials, like transit thinking.
Imagine if you're trying to, like, solve an equation for some test and it's like, hold on, we have to interrupt your train of thought with this Pepsi commercial.
Exactly. I mean, I already have, like, trouble keeping random thoughts from bubbling around. I don't need, like, a Wi-Fi router in there. That's terrifying.
Right. And I mean, who's to say that they couldn't just hack your brain?
For sure. If they can, like, gain control over the thought process, like the brain meat, I don't like that at all.
Mm-hmm. I think it'd be pretty fucking wild, though. And I mean, anything is more fun than where we are right now. It's boring.
We're taking all of the worst steps to like a cyberpunk hell without the cool stuff.
Yeah. I feel like we're going to get to cyberpunk hell, and I'm going to be alive for it, and I'm just going to be like, well, this was a fucking ripoff.
Like,
this isn't Blade
yeah,
Runner.
we don't get androids and cyborgs and flying cars and transhumanism, like, implants. We just get the planet dying and crazy computers. Like,
Yeah.
bitchin' Wi-Fi will be our only thing.
We're gonna be like, oh, dude, we're taking steps towards cyberpunk hell, and then it's just gonna turn into I have no mouth and I must scream. You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and move into the evidence,
Yeah,
I guess you could call
let
it.
Rip.
So people argue that there are actual events in our history that were just resets or like checkpoints or like stuff like a checkpoint or a reset or like a soft reset for the simulation. Things like the Ice Age.
Oh.
Things like the World Wars. Things like the meteor that wiped out the dinosaurs. And now people are theorizing that COVID-19 is the next reset for the simulation.
Reset.
Yeah.
Oh god, those other things you mentioned were on such a larger scale. That's terrifying. If that's what we're moving towards.
Yeah, I mean, if it is a reset, it's going to get a lot worse.
Christ.
I mean,
To tell you the truth,
we haven't even...
I made this podcast to sort of get away from that, but fuck.
Can't escape it.
So, is the simulation being reset to try something new, to like learn some, like they've completed a certain mission and they're moving on to a new task? Like what's the goal for that?
I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, like, that's why I used the word checkpoint. Because it could be like, they could be doing it to mark, maybe even like a save point, like mark, like, okay, hey, the end of World War II, that's when we're going to move into the, like, if they're like, depending on what degree they're controlling the simulation, you know, it could be like, okay, they just finished World War II. Let's give them this technology, this technology, this technology, almost like a save point, I guess.
And see where that goes. Okay. That makes sense.
Or like, I don't know. Maybe the computing power is bad, so if they want to add more technological advancement to the simulation, then maybe they have to thin the population a little bit.
If you put 10 cell phones and 6 sticks of RAM into your microwave and let it rip for 30 seconds, you'll no clip out of the simulation.
I hope so.
Breakthrough.
And then some people believe the Mandela effect is evidence of glitches in the simulation, or the sim runners changing history to make something more suitable. Are you familiar with the Mandela effect?
Yeah, it's one that would really get me to lean into that camp. I kind of tackle that one on my own. Like, I feel weird about it.
What is that one hitting? Is that one hitting too close to home? Or are you weird. Like, fuck, maybe I'm in the simulation?
Like the idea that either like mass misunderstanding or some sort of like collective forgetfulness, that's terrifying.
Yeah. I don't know. I have mixed feelings about the Mandela effect. On one hand, yeah, it's fucking weird. But on the other hand, it's like... who cares about which way a fucking children's book was spelled?
Bro, I love the Bearstein Bears.
You're gonna spell it the way that fucking makes sense, you know? And I mean, like, those are children's books, you know? Kids grow up, you move on, you, delete Berenstein Bears memory, make room for new memory, you know? So
things can get foggy.
I don't think it's that. Things can get foggy. Like, I just think it's a very, very big stretch to be like, I remember it as A. And then it's like, no, it's actually E. And they're like, well, we're in a computer simulation. That's the only explanation.
What about the namesake, the thought that Nelson Mandela died in prison?
I don't know, because I had no fucking clue who Nelson Mandela was. Yeah. I mean,
you could chalk that one up to like political apathy, like people not really actually paying attention to world history.
Yeah, I mean, like, with the way things are here, it's like something is in the news for a week and then it's gone forever, you know?
I would be very comfortable like staking that on the weakness of both our education and news sort of absorbing ability, for sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think that fucking forgetful, like, I can't even remember what celebrities are alive today.
But it just sort of, it tickles me a little bit. Like, if that can happen, what if like one day all of us sort of wake up and you're like, yeah, you know, we've always had that 51st state. Like, something crazy happens. I'm terrified.
Honestly, you could probably like fucking gotcha me with a 51st state Mandela effect.
Or like,
because there's some days where I'm like, oh yeah, there's 50 states, and then I'm like, right?
Or
yeah, it's 50, right?
Like, it's just, there's so many things that it freaks me out. Okay, that one hits close to home.
The Mandela effect being evidence of the simulation.
Yeah, no, I connected with that one on like a terrifying level just now.
It's strange. It's strange for sure. I mean, I don't really know. Like, I don't know about that one. I have mixed feelings about the Mandela effect. Like I said, some of it's like, that's weird, and then some of it's like, it's a kid's book that you haven't read since you were like 10 years old. Probably less, you know?
Can I share with you another? It's sort of like that, but it's something that really struck in my mind when you were talking about the ancestor simulation theory.
Please, go right ahead.
It's like this function of biology. It's this, like, how knowledge is passed on through generations. Like, these things where you see animals displaying the same type of behavior that they could not have been taught. It's like the creatures are born with this sort of, whether it's like motor familiarity or something that like they know how to do. Like, I think the example is like something about baby chicks knowing how to break out of their egg and how to function. Like, these things that are passed down through the generations.
Right.
It sort of, I feel, could be interpreted as a method of continuing the some kind of like cognitive simulation, you know, like keeping if this were to be like a video game, like you keep like the base box and then iterate upon it as you get new and new either lives or saves, you know.
Updates. Yeah. We're updating the chickens.
Yeah, exactly. Like, evolution is just a form of simulation update.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't find any of that during my research, but evolution being updates to the simulation, that's pretty fucking crazy.
That freaks me out now.
You know? That is weird.
You brought up I have no mouth and I must scream.
Yeah, I mean, that is a version, that's a fictional version of a simulated reality. That's a simulated reality story.
Do you feel like our society needed to get to a certain point to start like reflecting on itself enough to be concerned about things like that, like for that kind of culture to emerge? Because it shows up in, you know, Plato's early thought process. Like, it's something that's always kind of been around, and I think that's really interesting.
What, like I'm being controlled?
Yeah, like we're always having that like questioning reality type thought.
You know, I'll have a comment about that at the end. Don't let me forget though. You know, because I mean, it's not all doom and gloom, honestly. But we'll get to that. So, let me move on to more forms of evidence here. Others believe that the fact we haven't encountered extraterrestrials yet is further proof of the simulation and that we are alone in the universe. Now, let me add, I personally disagree with that one. Because technically, that's just fucking stupid. Because space is real, we've sent, simulation or not, we know that the space outside of Earth is real. We can measure it, and we know it's fucking big. So, why would the simulation runners waste computing power and storage on creating a universe so large only for us to be alone in it?
Maybe that's a part of the environment. Like,
I don't know, maybe unless they're trying to simulate existential dread.
Yeah, fear and loneliness on a cosmic scale.
But I don't know. I just don't think that they would waste that much computational power simulating a universe as large as ours.
If they're using it for scientific or educational purposes, do you think it could be like a reflection of the universe they live in? Like, if they also have space, they're living in the same universe per se that we are.
Oh, for sure. I mean, that comes back.
See what this simulation does in it.
Right. And I mean, that goes back to the ancestor simulation from Nick Bostrom. Mm-hmm. You know, that goes back to that. Where, we could, our world could just be the real world. but we're just living in the simulated version of it.
Yeah, this iterative version of it. I think that's the theory I'm really latching onto.
You like the ancestor simulation one? Okay. So I don't buy the extraterrestrials. I think that one's kind of bogus.
Yeah.
I don't know a lot about computers, but to generate a universe as large as ours, that'd take a lot of computational power.
I get that. I feel that sort of like play to the logistics of the simulation. Like if you were doing this to some end, why? Yeah.
Yeah. Play to what you know. Next we have theoretical physicist James Gates claims he has identified what appears to be actual computer code embedded in the equations of string theory that describe the fundamental particles of our universe. He says he found error-correcting codes, the things that make web browsers work. So why were they in the equation I was studying about quarks and electrons and supersymmetry? Now, my personal belief is simulation or not, things like atoms, quarks, Plancks, like simulation or not, that's the no bullshit coding of the universe. You know?
Yeah, I get that.
Like, when you get down to that, it's like when you were a kid and you were standing in front of your CRT and you had a stupid kid thought and you just put your face as close to the TV as you could. And you could see that it got all the way down to 1 pixel and each of the pixels were colored a different shade of red, green, and blue. Did you ever do that when you were a kid or just
No,
me?
absolutely I did that.
Alright, good. Yeah, but like, did it click for you as soon as you saw that you were like, oh, this picture is made up of these
No,
pixels?
I was like, what the hell's going on here? What's this like cursed honeycomb doing in my TV?
Really?
I don't think I put what the hell pixels are together when I was like 5 years old and stuck my face in the TV.
Well, I wasn't like, oh, this is a pixel. But I was like, oh, whatever this is, all these little ones make up the actual picture.
Okay. I maybe got like I probably thought of like a stained glass window or something.
And I mean, I was also doing this at like 8, not 5. So I had a little more cognitive function going for me there.
I mean, the study of physics is basically like chaos magic to me. You'll find terrifying secrets in that study.
Well, and like that, the string theory and Planck length and particles looking like web browser code. It reminds me of that photo that was like that I'm 14 and this is deep picture that shows like the universe in a neuron and how they look kind of similar. I mean, and it's pretty fucking corny, let's not lie here. And it is a weird experience, but if you want to get Joe Rogan philosophical with me, like, by all laws and technicalities, we are made of the universe, you know?
What do you mean by that?
Oh, I mean, like, ask any stoner and they'll tell you we're all made of stardust.
I mean,
you know?
Chemically, that's not wrong, but are you talking in a more, like, metaphysical kind of way?
I guess.
Like,
but I just think it's...
You're not into that line of thinking?
No, not really. I mean, it chemically, yes, but like... chemically, yes, but that's about it.
Okay, so you don't feel like there's some kind of, God, I'm having trouble trying, like, putting it together, this sort of, like, collectiveness.
I mean... Wait, what do you mean collectiveness?
Like, shared... Like, there's certain religions have, like, a one soul theory that, like, all living creatures and everything is one shared existence type thing.
Yeah, it's the simulation.
Oh, no.
No, I think that got a little lost. I just want to move on from that. I'm 14 and this is deep. So while I was researching a lot of this, I was finding a lot of explanation on how we could be in a simulation. But I wasn't finding much on the motives behind a simulation other than Bostrom proposing its future. I'm sorry. His name is Nathan Bostrom, not Nick.
Okay.
Sorry. Fucked that up. But, other than Nathan Bostrom proposing its future humans simulating the past. So I asked some people around the internet, and I found some interesting answers. So I thought it would be funny with every episode at the beginning of the week or whenever I start researching my next topic, I will make a post about my topic on the 4chan board X, which if you don't know, X is like the paranormal conspiracy board, you know?
Wild wasteland, yeah.
Yeah, and I know 4chan, ooh, scary, but like, it's not that bad. X-board at least. X-board is pretty chill. It's fun. I said, are we in a simulation? Who is running the simulation? What do they have to gain? And the picture I attached is the PS2 startup screen. So here we have my first reply. The architect of the simulation is said to be the Demiurge. He's an imposter of God who is after our spark.
Hell yeah.
I don't know what the hell that means.
This man's reading my mind. I was going to do a Demiurge Yaldabaoth theory. That's crazy.
Yaldabaoth came up, but I wasn't finding very much substance with it.
One of these days, we'll have the grand theology talk. That'll be lit.
Okay. Here next we have, obviously they're playing it. Why run a simulation if you're not going to take part in it, at least to observe what's going on? Which, okay, I buy that a lot. What's next? What's another good one? The owners of the simulation left thousands of years ago, yet the script is still running.
That's terrifying.
I have died plenty. All I can tell you is that you do not need to fear.
What?
Yep. Here's my favorite. No. Define simulation, moron.
Is that it?
Yep.
That person knows.
Yep.
Oh, no.
Hey Google, stop simulation. Google is Skynet. Your kids will be enslaved to machines.
Okay, that one's real, but...
That's just true.
Yeah, that was just like a news forecast. Just the truth.
Yep. Then I replied. I said, has anyone woken up from the simulation or broke out of it in any way? What was it like? And then somebody goes, if you actually could, why would you come back to post on 4chan? This guy says, heaven and above that, compared to here at least. Someone goes, stop lying, and the other guy knows, how would you know if I was lying?
There's like, if you did find out you were in this lovingly crafted, safe bubble world, this sort of simulated universe, there's a kind of comfort in that. Mm-hmm. There's a kind of peace there, don't you think? Like, I can find someone interpreting that in a very positive way.
Maybe if after I discovered it, if everything was explained to me, they had like a welcome seminar or something, and they were like explained everything about the simulation.
What if it's like way worse on the outside, and this is like
the Matrix? Yeah. Then
throw me back in, bro.
No, hell no. Hell no. I'm not gonna let the robots harvest my fucking organs.
Honestly, let them have it.
You're that one dude in the Matrix that sold out the rest of the dudes to fucking to the Agent Smith. And then he's like, hey, when you guys jack me back into the Matrix, can you make me rich? That's you.
I'm not necessarily bootlicking the robots, but let's hear what they have to say. Let's at least hear the offer before I lick the boot. Is all I'm saying.
No, if I'm in a simulation and it's for nefarious purposes, let me out.
Okay.
So I can fucking destroy it.
Did you receive any advice on how to get out or how to find the...
No, just that these guys are coming out. They've been out, and they come back in to check out the X board. So maybe the real world is just fucking boring.
It just sucks.
Yeah. If I really wanted to cower it out, though, I would just tell the simulation masters to just wipe my memory and plug me back in. I don't want to know.
Oh, like it's not worth knowing.
The knowledge is not worth it.
That's some real...
I couldn't go back in with knowledge of the outside world. I think I'd just become a different person.
It's like...
You know, like I'd just be an asshole.
It's like when you flip a switch in your brain and you realize you're in a dream. When you have that agency in a dream, and yeah, no, that's terrifying. I don't want to... Or
I'd just become like a fucking madman and just like commit crimes and just fucking like...
for sure.
Just become like this criminal who knows.
Who has the truth, yeah.
You know, I just start smoking crack. I'll be like, maybe these crackheads are onto something.
Maybe they can see through. Oh, no.
They're like, Dan, we really... Please, just stop smoking crack. And I'll be like, I'm just going to respawn.
Yeah, did one person in your reply say something about, like, coming back, or I've died many times?
Yes. That's all he offered me. He just goes, I have died plenty. All I can tell you is that you need not fear.
Yeah, he casually, like, confirms a respawn mechanic.
Yeah.
All I'm going to say is...
So, I don't
know what happens when you die, but if I roll back in, I'm going to be pissed.
No, I'm going to go crazy. If I roll back in, I'm going to go fucking sicko mode. I'm going to go through like 15 lives in like 10 years.
Well, I assume there's a wipe in between them. Like, you don't remember...
Oh, you think there's like spawn delay?
Yeah, like a full-on respawn. Like, I come back as a new baby? A new...
Oh, then I'll just die until I grow up. Like, when I'm old enough to understand my surroundings, I'll be like, are we in cyber hell? No? Jumping off a cliff.
Loop me back through. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so if they brought me out and they didn't wipe my memory and just put me back in, I'd just start abusing the mechanics of the simulation.
No, you had said that you wanted to loop back around to, like, questioning authority or questioning reality, like, throughout history.
Yeah, so it comes back to Rene Descartes. His most famous line is, I think, therefore I am. Which means, basically, that whether we're not in a simulation, we can take comfort and know that we're real, because we can think and have doubtful thoughts on our own existence. Meaning that there must be a thinking entity to produce a thought. So even if we are in a simulation, you can take comfort in the fact that you can doubt your own existence so that you know you're real.
You have enough free will within the game, enough humanity.
Yeah. And that got me thinking, like, even if we are in a simulation, you can still have a meaningful life and do things separate from the simulation.
Yeah, maybe it's not all bad.
Because if you believe Rene Descartes that you're not fucking, you know that you're not being simulated. You know that you're real. I think, therefore I am. If you side with that, then anything that you've made, any piece of art, any piece of music that you've written, anything you've ever drawn or done, that's completely unique within the simulation.
What if that's what they want? What if they're harvesting that uniqueness and like that, the like infinite potential inside for their own gain?
What do you mean?
What if they're like, we want all of these individual, unique beings to bounce around inside this planet and make these things and do this stuff, like find out how they live for some nefarious gain, whether it be,
Well, then we need to figure out how to bust out and rip their fucking robot skulls out.
You think it's robots?
Maybe. I don't know.
Okay.
But I am very firmly on the side of I think, therefore I am. It's a very powerful phrase.
I almost feel like that could be like a horse blinder philosophy. Like a sedative to other thought. Like you can just say, I think, therefore I am. Like I know this. I don't need I don't need proof. I don't need feedback. I know this because I know this. Doesn't seem like a completely like logical reasoning to me.
I mean, it can sound like that, but I think that once you read deeper into it, that like, there needs to be a thinking entity to produce a thought. And I mean, but granted, this was way back when, before computers, before artificial intelligence was even a thought. But even then, if you think back to, I have no mouth and I must scream, the bad guy is am. And like the first thing he says is, I think, therefore I am. And the bad guy's a computer creating this simulated reality for like the last 5 humans on Earth.
I guess it does depend on what context you use it in, for sure.
Yeah, I think I just want to reread I Have No Mouth and Must Scream.
I'm more confused at the end of this than I thought I was going to be, or than I was at the beginning of this. Like,
oh, you thought I was just bringing up the sim theory for ha-has? Be like, these idiots actually think we're living in a simulation. No.
I thought there would be some kind of like resolution at the end. Like this is the why, or this is the how. But now I'm just like, bro.
No.
The squirrels.
No. Yeah. So how do you feel about all this? The simulation theory. What do you think? Are we in a simulation?
We are screaming lightning bolts trapped in flesh pockets, spinning around and just driving ourselves fucking crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a pretty good way to describe it. And with that, I think we're going to cut you all loose for the night.
We're going to unplug you.
Stay safe. Yeah, stay safe. Don't read too hard into it. If you encounter any glitches, do not interact with them, or they're going to pull you out of the simulation and discard you. But this is Mad Tower Radio, ending transmission.